Hi, everyone. My name is Kush Sharma. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the City of Toronto. I wanted to welcome everyone today to our panel session on the topic of Speed with Direction, Enhancing Cyber at the City of Toronto. With me today are four amazing women, and I'm honored to have been working with them. As an ally, and this being Canadian Women in Cybersecurity Week, I am happy to be able to share the stage with all of you today. I'm proud at the fact that the Office of the CISO has 26% women, 6% above the global average according to Forbes. Thank you for the panelists for joining us. Thank you to the audience. And first, we have Sandra Califaretti, Director of Accounting Services, who is responsible for PCI at the City of Toronto. Sandra, please introduce yourself and your role at the city.
Thanks, Kush. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today, celebrating all women, but especially women in cybersecurity. I'm a CPA-CA, having received my designation in 1991 when I qualified as a chartered accountant. As Kush mentioned, I'm currently the Director of Accounting Services with the City of Toronto, where I'm responsible for the integrity of the city's general ledger, the financial components of the city's SAP financial system, and the city's consolidated financial statements and annual financial report. And I also have the pleasure of being responsible for governance over the city's PCI compliance program, which allows me to work closely with our business units, technology services, the Office of the CISO, and our payment processing provider to secure credit card data for residents paying for City of Toronto services. It is truly a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Sandra. We're going to move over to another Sandra, Sandra Lisi. Sandra is the Director of Purchasing Client Services and is responsible for the new Cyber Category Management Program. Sandra?
Thank you, Kush, and thank you for having me today. And again, I wanted to just acknowledge all women, in particular this week here as we celebrate women in cyber. So welcome all. As Kush mentioned, my name is Sandra Lisi, and I'm the Director of Purchasing Client Services for the City of Toronto. I joined the city in November of 2018, first time joining public sector procurement, having spent all of my career in the private sector. So I decided to make the leap of faith into the public sector. My responsibilities include the entire purchasing organization, which includes category management and strategic sourcing that Kush alluded to. We support all the divisions across the city in their acquisitions of goods and services. So I wanted to just share with you that we're super excited to be here and share all of that great work that the city has in play from a cyber and procurement perspective. Thanks, Kush.
Thank you, Sandra. Next, we have Sacha Blasiak-Priestley, who is the Director of Threat Management for the Office of the CISO. Sacha?
Thanks, Kush, and thanks everybody for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. So as Kush said, I'm Sacha Blasiak-Priestley. I'll just give you a little bit of about myself. So I've been in the technology area for about the last 20 years. I've worked with clients in telecommunications, in retail, in finance, and in healthcare. My primary focus has been around security operations, mainly detect and respond, as well as incident response. Currently, in my role with the City of Toronto, my team is responsible for offensive security, cloud access and protection, cyber fulfillment, and cyber threat intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Sacha. Last but not least, we have Shilpa Dahiya, the Director of Diplomacy and Governance in the Office of the CISO. Shilpa?
Thanks, Kush. Like you mentioned, I'm currently at the City of Toronto, and through my cyber diplomacy and governance practice, I lead for cyber architecture, governance, risk and compliance, and strategic executions for all citywide cyber initiatives. As far as my background is concerned, I've been in the information technology industry for 15 years. I'm a computer science engineer, and the past 12 years of this have been strong management experience in managing cyber risks. I take a lot of pride in being a reliable and trusted advisor to senior leadership teams and as strategic partners on cyber diplomacy and cyber risk matters. I recently realized that my key strength is building consensus across business functions when leading cyber initiatives. I believe in leading with integrity and accountability, and I'm very grateful to have worked in both the public and the private sector. So thank you, Kush, for having me here.
Of course, thank you, Shilpa. I wanted to ask now if each of you could share one aspect of working at the City of Toronto that is exciting and excites you and your teams. So maybe Shilpa, we start with you this time.
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, working at the city gives me a chance to solve problems and address challenges that can and will directly improve the life of Torontonians. Being a Torontonian myself, I take a lot of pride in doing that. And for me, this is by far the most exciting part of my job. And I'm sure everybody thinks the same. Sacha, what about you?
Shilpa, yeah, for me, I think, with the city offering such a wide range of services, everything from public health to parks, forestry, and recreation, with such a diverse offering, I'm really proud to be part of the team that helps protect them. We have such unique challenges, so it makes a very interesting place to work. Sandra Lisi, what about you?
Sandra, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah, sorry, guys. I had to do that at least once. For me, it's the ability to make a difference in the lives of the residents, businesses, and tourists of this city, and really ensure that we're getting the best value for taxpayer dollars and create a safe and positive space for them. Sandra C., over to you.
Thanks, Sandra L., which we've started to call each other, given all the meetings that we're in. It's actually really hard to come to work every day and not be excited about something. And one of the benefits of going last after these three amazing women is that I can almost say ditto to what they just said. Most of my career has been in the public sector, and it really is exciting to see all the change that is continuing to happen in the public sector, but that continues to be focused on the services that we provide to the public. So whether it is, keeping their credit card data safe or providing the best possible, parks, forestry, and recreations programs, or providing the best value, it really is all about the residents that we serve. And that's what's exciting about doing it every single day.
Thank you, Sandra. I would echo all of your comments. The City of Toronto is definitely an exciting place to work at. I came from private sector myself recently, so we are doing some leading edge stuff when it comes to cybersecurity, thanks to all of you. I think we're gonna change gears a little bit, Sandra, and maybe I can ask you a question about PCI. As there's a big push to go digital today, especially with governments, this includes the processing of those transactions, those citizens' transactions online. And with that, we have to make sure that things are protected when we're processing those transactions. So what are some of the steps that you've taken to ensure more awareness among staff on handling and protecting financial data?
Yeah, thanks, Kush. And you're absolutely right about that. More and more users want government services to be digitally enabled, but they also want to know that their financial information is protected. So, and the city is actually not special or unique in that regard. If you think about all of our financial data, it takes many forms. So going beyond credit card numbers, think about accounts receivable balances that individuals pay for city services or payments that are made to our vendors. So generally speaking, what we've done is ensured that City of Toronto employees are constantly reminded that they need to abide by public service bylaw, which basically lays out public service values and standards for professionalism, for ethical behavior, and the application of good judgment. Our team members are trained to consider privacy and security from a customer's lens for all of their interactions with any financial data. Our financial system, for example, our roles ensure proper segregation of duties through role-based access controls, which we monitor. And we also continuously remind our teams about some of the basics, like not sharing passwords and limiting visibility to screens when they're working, especially when they're working from home, and respecting privacy requirements. From a PCI compliance perspective specifically, we have rolled out a very robust governance program that focuses on both administrative and technical controls and safeguards. Our PCI compliance team has developed training to enhance awareness about PCI compliance standards and activities. I'm happy to report that about 2,000 individuals in the City of Toronto have taken that training. So it's really great to know that people are taking an interest in keeping credit card data safe. This training ensures that credit card information is handled in a safe way, regardless of the payment channel. And in addition, our policies, procedures, and audit documents are reviewed regularly with staff to ensure that our teams continue to abide by the required processes to safeguard financial information. And then finally, our compliance team performs regular internal assessments, working with our individuals who manage credit card payments or information to ensure that they're continuing to abide by the standards. So things like daily security inspections of POS devices. So even with people working from home, we do make sure that, needing to keep credit card information safe is always on everybody's radar, and it actually keeps us audit ready. So if you think about financial information, especially credit card holder information, that really is the best brand endorsement that we can provide for City of Toronto services.
Thank you for that, Sandra. We'll move to Sandra Lisi next. Sandra, you've developed a specific category management function for cyber, which is quite innovative in municipal governments. Can you talk through this new service and how that entire program works?
Absolutely, and it's exciting to be able to do this for the municipal government, because with the increase of online procurements, it leaves a growing number of digital vulnerabilities open to cyber threats. And as we know, threats don't sleep. So we need to make sure that from the initial onboarding right through to the end of that relationship, that we're managing that vendor and that contract well. So we've developed a strategy around the category of cyber, specifically to allow us to work with the cyber team in understanding what their specific needs are and the pace that we need to move at. It's a much faster pace than it would be in any other type of procurements, given the nature of what we're trying to do and some of the services that we need to onboard, and we need to onboard them rather quickly. So some of the things that we are working on and have started already is to revisit all of our procurement documentation, our agreements, to ensure that we have robust language, including things such as proper data protection, data storage, data retention, and any other key components that we need to make sure that we're including to meet our cyber privacy and safekeeping needs. We also want to ensure that we're creating a reporting framework, and that framework needs to be used by our suppliers as well to assess their security performance and to ensure that they're adhering to the risk management policies that we have in place and following the processes that we have outlined. We also want to ensure that we have the right to audit the work that we're doing. So in these relationships that we're in particular for a sensitive topic such as cyber, we want to make sure that we're developing partnerships with our supplier community, that we know that they are doing what we need them to do. So what's new that we're introducing and we're in the process of working on now is to ensure that we're introducing a cyber risk assessment at the beginning of the procurement process, so that we're ensuring that all of the due diligence and language is captured throughout the procurement lifecycle as a whole. So that way, any of our needs and requirements are captured right from the onset, and we carry those throughout the supplier relationship management component of our the life cycle. So when a cyber threat happens, that's sometimes too late to engage with vendors to assist. So we're establishing, to help us expedite the process and to create speed and efficiencies, we're establishing appropriate rosters to make sure that when we do need to engage a third party, that we have ones that have been vetted and are readily available for us to leverage in the event that we need to bring them in rather quickly. So there's a lot of exciting work underway, Kush, and great strides we're making.
Thank you, Sandra. I'd like to direct the next question to Sacha. What are the key areas of focus for threat management at the City of Toronto? And what do you think we need to put in place to make it successful?
Thank you. So I think the other two Sandras also touched on these topics. So I think there's kind of three main factors that go into a successful program. The first one, of course, is user awareness. I think, as we've seen from some of the more recent attacks on organizations, it could be something as simple as a phishing email. I know that gets talked about a lot, but that truly does give the attackers the ability to use your username and password and get access keys to the front door. So I think it's very important to educate users on the risk that they have and the responsibility they have to keep both their usernames and their passwords secure. I think, the second part would be around the strong cyber monitoring program. As we know, resources within an organization aren't infinite. Unfortunately, we cannot protect everything within an organization at all times. So we really need to understand and prioritize what the organization's most important data, people, and systems are, so that we can ensure that we have visibility over those systems. Once we have visibility on those systems, we can then also use that to correlate it or connect it to other data that we may have from the organization. Like I mentioned before, if the attackers have your username and password, it might not trigger some of the alarms we typically would see. So how do we, think creatively about that, and how do we ensure that we have visibility into all of those systems so that we can see things as they're happening? And then, as Sandra Lisi mentioned, it's around third-party risk management. I think as the industry moves towards the cloud and moves from the traditional data center, within the traditional data center, we had very granular control over the systems. We knew exactly what controls were where, and we could see it. Not that that didn't have its own challenges, but when you move into the cloud, for example, you're relying on that company's cyber and their security policies. So, I think it moves from a technology point of view over to the governance point of view, like Sandra was mentioning, whether it's requirements when we're setting out into contracts, if it's regular auditing of the systems, if it's evidence that we're asking those providers to give us. I think those all contribute to a very successful program.
Thank you, Sacha. Shilpa, next question is for you. What are some of the key principles and desired outcomes for cyber governance and diplomacy?
Thanks, Kush. I think that's a great question. And I think, like everybody's already touched on, a couple of key points. Governance forms the centralized, backbone of cybersecurity, so to say. So there are 5 key principles that I've learned over the years that actually need to be taken care of. Let me begin with the most important one first. So the most important principle for governance that I've discovered is establishing organization-wide cybersecurity. What it essentially means is that cyber risks and concerns should permeate the organization's structures and functions, and management at all levels should ensure that cyber governance is integrated with information technology governance and other activities. That's the top principle that we need to follow to make sure that we maintain that backbone. The second important principle that I've learned over the years and is equally important actually is adopting a risk-based approach. What that essentially means is cyber governance, including the allocation of resources and budgets, should essentially be based on a risk appetite of the organization. And we should consider factors like competitive advantage, compliance and liability risks, organizational disruptions, reputational harms, and financial loss. Adopting a risk-based approach, strengthens that backbone to a very high degree. Third principle is ensuring cyber governance maintains a conformance with internal and external requirements. My apologies. What that essentially means is that we need to make sure that we comply to mandatory legislation and regulations as far as external requirements are concerned, but also our contractual requirements, whether we are a service provider or where we are a product owner, service owner. How do we do this? Independent cyber audits are actually an accepted and very effective means for determining and monitoring cyber governance. Fourth important factor is is fostering a cyber positive environment for all stakeholders. In a nutshell, cyber governance should be responsible to all stakeholder expectations, keeping in mind that various stakeholders have various business needs and we need to address them. How do we address them? We address them by ensuring that cyber governance supports cyber education, training, and awareness programs at all levels within the organization. And lastly, the most important principle for ensuring governance is reviewing of cyber performance in relation to the business outcomes. What that means is that cyber performance and cyber metrics should not only focus on effectiveness, efficiency, but also the overall impact they make to the business goals and objectives. So whether we do it through, through Sacha's point, whether we do it through a measurement program for monitoring, audit, and improvement, or putting cyber governance right at the front face of procurements is really going to be very, very helpful. Now, what I've learned over the years is that these 5 principles are essential to the success of a cyber governance program in the long term. And when we follow these 5 principles, we get some very good desired outcomes. And these desired outcomes are strategic alignment. What that means is aligning of cybersecurity objectives to the overall objectives of the organization, to the business strategy. The next important outcome we get is centralized end-to-end enterprise cyber risk management, which is really essential in preventing potential impact and on the information resources. Third important outcome is centralized resource management. What that essentially means is that all staff, procurements, budgets is now centralized at a central place in a cyber function, and that helps in making sure that each of the important projects are accounted for. And finally, I think the best outcome we get out of following these 5 principles for cyber governance is value delivery. So this value delivery ensures that cyber investments are managed overall to achieve an optimum value for the organization and business objectives, and not just cybersecurity. So if we follow these principles and we get the desired outcomes, in my opinion, we can successfully say we have a successful cyber governance program. And it's my hope that we achieve that soon within the city of Toronto.
Thank you, Shilpa. That's awesome. Thank you, everyone. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about some of the experiences that everyone has had. Considering the gender gap, especially in the cybersecurity industry, how do you navigate through an industry that's primarily dominated by males and men? I'll open up the floor to all panelists, and I think this is important for everyone to hear and understand the experiences, the personal experiences of the great women here we have today. So the floor is open. Let's have that conversation.
Kush, I'm happy to start.
Sure, yeah,
that's all right. Okay, yeah. So I'm actually new to the cyber world. The bulk of my career has been on the financial side of things, but I'm actually not new to industries that are primarily staffed by men. So several decades ago, and hopefully you weren't paying attention at the beginning when I said when I got my CPA, but I entered the CPA world, and I was at the time, I was one of 4 women that started with a CA firm when they were hiring 10 men. And that was actually a really great statistic at the time. In addition, I worked for another public sector organization. I spent 24 years there. And I was actually the first, it was primarily men. I was the first woman who became the manager of their financial management group. And I was the first female to be the director of finance and business management. So those experiences have allowed me to develop a few navigation strategies that, you know, I still employ today, and I personally believe are important for women in the workforce, and, you know, women navigating what might still be a male-dominated type of industry. So I'd say, 1, be really confident in your skills and your abilities. You were hired for a reason, and the skills and the knowledge base that you bring to the table is an asset to your organization. So have confidence in yourself and trust what you know and what you can do. 2, don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if something is new. Asking questions is not a weakness, it's actually a strength. It's important for you to be as informed as possible, and asking questions shows that you're interested and that you want to learn. And then finally, be true to yourself. We each have lived experiences that make us who we are. So bring your genuine, compassionate, authentic, empathetic, and kind selves to work every single day. And that's how you can build trust and confidence, not only with the individuals that you work with, but the people that you're doing that work for.
Sandra, I have a follow-up question that's quite interesting. When you started in PCI, it's kind of more of a technical world, even in cyber, and you're responsible for that governance. Like once you got the portfolio, can you maybe talk through how you ramped up, how you built that confidence? Coming from accounting into a world that's really data focused and is very technical.
No, absolutely. I had the benefit of 2 things. One is that's why I put in there, ask lots of questions, because I asked a ton of questions, and I was not afraid to say, I have no idea what that means. I'm not foreign to data, because financial information is data, but certainly the technical side of things. You know, I remember going to when the city was first had a project where we first became PCI compliant. What is a Splunk? You know, and I was asking questions like that, because I just, I had no idea what it was. And so, so it's just a matter of asking lots of questions, you know, doing research on your own, trying to really trying to understand what it is that you're working with and what are the most important aspects of it. So, you know, knowing that what my group was responsible for was a compliance program is, you know, what exactly is required for compliance, and then who are the partners that I need to work with, you know, and then bringing those groups of people together to be able to do that work. The other thing that I think, you know, I benefited from, the manager of PCI compliance who reports to me is a man. And, you know, what I found that I have in working with him is just, you know, that open-mindedness that acknowledges the strengths that I do bring to the table, and that it's the fact that I want to learn and that I want to fully understand what our program is. So I think a lot of us have the benefit of, you know, being in a world where women are appreciated for the diversity that they bring, and that, you know, men do appreciate that. Everybody appreciates each other in that diversity. So study a lot, ask lots of questions, and it's okay to not know something, that everybody is working together to learn.
Awesome.
I think to Sandra's point, Sandra, you really mentioned a couple of very key good things. And I also believe, I've always believed that women have some inherent skills: compassion, empathy, intuition. You know, we need to use our skill sets to our strength and to our advantage. That's the first thing that I've learned over all these years. We don't have to compete with, it's not a men versus women battle. We don't have to compete. We have to take our strengths and use them to our advantage, and not only make the work environment a better place for women, but also for other communities, who don't get enough representation or voice, and create those equities so that everybody who doesn't have the voice and partnership today, gets a pedestal to do that. I think women are really good at that. So I firmly believe that. I also believe many years ago, I'd read a book called Lean In, which was very, famous at that time, famous in whatever way you want to call it. And Lean In said that, women should do this, women should do this, women should ask more questions. And I was a new manager at the time, and I thought, okay, I should do all of these things. And slowly I realized the fatigue set in, and I realized, okay, I have to maintain my individuality. And, as much as I can lean in, and to your point earlier, if I don't have a conducive environment for my partnership, I'm not going to succeed. And this is where, the world today comes in picture, like having those supporting managers, having your manager realize, or your organization realize that it's time that, there has to be an equal pedestal for everyone. So that really helped me in navigating. And thirdly, one practice that has helped me a lot is always asking questions that, what can I do better today? I used to maintain a journal a long time back. I don't do it anymore, but it was like my ideas book that would help me, in navigate. And if I get a feedback, I take it positively rather than, I'm being given a feedback because, I'm a woman. You have to stop thinking like that. It's about equality for everyone. And the moment I started thinking that, the world opened for me. So that's just my 2 cents. And I completely agree with you.
Thank you, Shilpa. I had a question. You talked about women, women getting into roles where they're in a position where they can help with the equity situation, and not only just looking at women, but other vulnerable groups and equity-based groups. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I've always believed that, we are the hero of our own stories, Kush, right? When we look at ourselves, we look at our own oppression. But we have to look at the world with equal eyes and see, okay, if I feel I'm oppressed in a certain way, what about the other people who don't have those opportunities? So the moment you get that opportunity, whether as a woman or as a person of a BIPOC community, you have to open those equities for everyone, create that level playing field, and bring it to everybody's advantage. Because at the end of the day, we just cannot stop. We just cannot keep on thinking about where we lack. How do we do that? I think there's a very good example in where diplomacy comes in picture, right? Through cyber diplomacy, we are able to create, education for the most vulnerable communities. Through cyber diplomacy, we have an opportunity to help the most vulnerable communities in protecting their data. So that's where, we use our knowledge, skill set to our advantage and make it a level playing field. It's important to have that, background, to have that, pedestal, so that everybody is able to learn. If we just keep on thinking about where my oppression is, it's all why me, right? I don't believe in that world. I believe in a world where everybody is equal, and we have to create those opportunities, whether through diplomacy, through awareness, and other areas. And I think City of Toronto is genuinely doing a great job, by the virtue of being, managing the life and helping the, the vulnerable communities come out of those areas and improve in every aspect of their life, whether it's through technology or cybersecurity. And I think, but I do believe we still have a long way to go.
Thank you, Shilpa. Sasha or Sandra?
Sure, I'll go next.
Sasha, go ahead. Yeah.
So mine is a combination, I think, both of Shilpa and Sandra's answer. I think it's really just being genuine, like you said, trust in your abilities. But be an active participant. When you're going to be in these kinds of conversations or you're in these groups or meetings, it's important to participate and be confident, right? I think that's helped me a long way. I think the other thing too for me was building a very supportive peer group. Having people with lots of different expertises coming from various backgrounds. A supportive group that I could lean on to ask questions about, that would support me, that would help me with my guidance. And I think it goes, again, like Shilpa was saying, it goes back to also providing that to new people entering the cybersecurity field, right? Giving them a place at the table and giving them a voice and making sure that they feel comfortable participating, because that's not always the case, right? So making sure that, when you're doing that, you are being inclusive of everyone and you're giving them that opportunity.
If I could just jump off of what Sacha just commented on, because I think there's a couple of really, really important things, is that everyone has a seat at the table. And, you know, it's not about taking a back seat and sitting in the second row because you may not be the subject matter expert or you may not be the resident expert on that topic. It's okay to ask the questions. It's okay to be the new kid on the block, and it's okay to wiggle your way up and have that seat and be confident. And it's okay that you don't know everything. You know, Kush could probably tell you some stories about when him and I met, and my introduction to the cyber world. I had spent a bit of time in fraud in one of the financial institutions, which is also heavily male dominated, or was, as you start to see women coming into that workspace. But it's okay to ask the questions. You don't need to have all the answers. And I always say that. I say that to, you know, my teams that I manage. It's okay not to have all of the answers, and don't be afraid to ask the questions, because there may be 4 or 5 other people sitting around this virtual room that don't know the answer either and are afraid to ask. So be confident, be kind, and learn as much as you can, and form allies within an organization that can help you learn, educate yourself, and create a community that encourages people to ask questions, because no one was born a cyber expert, period. Everyone started somewhere. And I truly believe that if you are entering into this space, is to find a mentor, is to find someone that, you know, you can bounce ideas off of and learn from. To Sandra C's point, I had no idea what Splunk was ever. It was like this foreign word. So anyways, I've learned a lot, but it's because I've been able to ask those questions, because the City of Toronto has created a safe space for that, for you to be humble and to be authentic and to say, I don't know. So I wanted to just share that, because we have made great strides, but there's a lot more we need to do. And we need to look, even in the hiring processes, is, you know, to have people with this wealth of knowledge and background is fantastic, but we also need to take people that are demonstrating the right behaviors and the right attitude, because I'll tell you something, those people are hungry to learn, and they will contribute, and they will give back, because we gave them that opportunity. So I'm just proud to be with an employer that promotes that and promotes that growth.
Sandra, that's interesting. When we first met, it was trial by fire, I think. It was the first kind of major cybersecurity procurement at the city. Can you maybe, you know, I guess we can laugh at it now, right? Can you talk through that experience of not only yourself, but your team? Because I know you quickly put together the category management team, and we set up that cyber initiative. Maybe you could talk through that experience. And I'm smiling because it was quite interesting.
It was. I mean, in hindsight, it was a little painful going through it, but in hindsight, we look back and you know that there's always a poster child of what something should look like or shouldn't look like. And I think in this one, we have a bit of both, but it was the very first cyber negotiations that we were going into, was this first major cyber procurement. And I was asked to lead the negotiations. And so to my earlier comment, what's Splunk? I had to ramp up really, really fast and learn what all these meanings were. I know how to negotiate, and I've done that, but not on this type of procurement. But we pulled a team together. We had clear roles and responsibilities. We learned, you know, we tripped up a couple of times, and that was expected, but we recovered quick, and that was important. And we stayed unified as a team. I always, you know, talk about it's the sibling rivalry, you know, but together we are a family, and together we're going to get through this. And then Kush joins us, and he comes in, and he kind of like, I had calmed down the environment. We were motoring along, and Kush comes in and throws a couple of wrenches into it all. And so, I mean, in a great way, but here comes the knowledge that we've been craving to some extent. So we had to Kush and I became really good friends during that process, because it would be the text messages saying, nope, sure, Nope. But we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot through those type of experiences. The team, my category team on cyber, has learned so much about the environment, what cyber means, what the considerations are, what type of procurements. And now those category management members that are on other technology or other projects always keep cyber in mind, because they've lived that experience. They know even if cyber doesn't come up in these procurements, they now automatically have a bit of a cyber mind. And so they'll say, have we engaged the CISO's office? What about the data? What about the privacy? What about the retention? So I think that these experiences, Kush, as much as we have a few scars from them, they were an amazing learning opportunity because we got thrown into it. And so we learned to swim as we were going down the stream.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. That's awesome. I wanna touch base on something that Sacha said. She said that, you know, to have a supportive peer group. Sacha, you work in a very exciting world. You're 24/7, right? 365. People are attacking you all the time. You're doing, you know, you're looking at incidents every day, all day long. And I'm sure you don't sleep at night. Can you talk through that supportive peer group that you mentioned that, you know, others should look for on building? And is that, you know, gender neutral, or did you go through it with, you know, did you have a mentor of a woman? Can you maybe talk through your experience and how you built that group and what did it consist of? Maybe to give some advice to others.
Sure. So again, I think it starts with, you know, being your genuine self, right? Just, you know, showing up, being curious too, right? I think it encompasses all of that. So, you know, building up a peer group and starting to talk to people and understand what their area of expertise is, because you're right, you can't be a subject matter expert in every area, no matter how much you try. So you really do have to rely on people that are experts in certain areas. So asking those questions, asking them to explain how they, you know, how do you do your role? What does this look like? How does this work? Draw me a picture. Lots of people, I'm sure, are tired of me asking that question, because I would always have them write it out on the whiteboard for me, right? Like, show me end to end. Okay, well, what about this? And again, I think if you're a genuine person, and I've been very lucky to work with people that never for a second batted an eyelash when I asked these questions or went through something or explained it for the third time, you know, so that I understood it. And that's what I also try to do. So if anyone ever has a question, to Sandra's point, if you're joining, you know, cyber and you want to know what Splunk is, like, I'm happy to explain that to someone. How does a firewall work? I'm happy to walk you through it, because I think it's important that you have someone that doesn't judge you for asking questions. Doesn't matter what your level of knowledge is. You know, right from the very beginning of my career, I worked on a help desk and I was actually fixing computers. And I had people that worked with me that they could show me for the third time how to replace a CD-ROM, and they didn't get tired of it. They didn't roll their eyes. They didn't say, oh, I've already showed you this 10 times. They showed me again, and we worked through that. And that's the environment that I like to have for my team too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sacha. Maybe we could touch on kind of the future a little bit now, and it's open discussion again. What are like some of the key skill sets in each one of your areas that you think are critical for the next generation to have, and for us to, you know, if we're working at the City of Toronto or anywhere else, where should we ramp up those skill sets?
So Kush, I'll start. I'll kick it off again.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, if you think about cyber and really any role, it really requires more than just technical skills. And, you know, it's really fundamental. Leadership is fundamental to all roles. So, you know, there's lots of ways that security experts can show leadership, and that's through ethics, through credibility, through responsiveness. I think what's also really important is the ability to explain complex concepts in digestible and understandable terms. That's absolutely mandatory. And that is, you know, when I go back to my Splunk example, you know, don't tell me in more technical terms what a Splunk is. Tell me in real people terms. And so I think that's really important, because that's how you get, again, that you get that trust and confidence with the people that you work with. And that's how you build on other people's skill sets. And I think also agility. So if you think about, I think it was Sandra L that said it, there's the fast-paced world of cyber. You've got to be agile. You've got to break free of old assumptions, and you have to rethink and reimagine how you're going to meet future challenges.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can the other Sandra go next?
Of course.
I just, I think about this often as I'm either leading my teams, or I'm speaking to people that are freshly graduating out of school and looking to enter the workforce. And I think, here's some of the things that, regardless of what career you choose to go into, a lot of the softer skills are things that people may not think about all the time, but things like, you're active listening, that you're engaging, that you have empathy for others, that you're patient with yourself and with those around you, that you're positive, and that you can see beyond the problem, and you think out of the box thinking. All of these attributes really set you up for success in any role that you're entering into. And to manage your own expectations in a humble way, simply because you will never go into any organization knowing everything. And whenever you do join an organization, it's really important. One of the key things that, I've learned along my career, and I say to others, when you're going into a new role or a new organization, listen more than you speak, and respect the fact that the organization functioned before you got there. So it may not be optimal, but things did work, and they do. So especially when we're going through so many transformations, in particular at the City of Toronto, we seem to be going through so many, because we see the opportunity for improvement, and the improvement to make things better for not only the employees, but the residents of the city as well. Respect where people are coming from, and that change is not easy for anyone. So to make sure that you include people as part of the change, and so they understand why the change is happening and what that change means for them. So that would be my advice for anyone coming into an organization in any role, or fresh out of school trying to enter the workforce, and managing those expectations from the onset.
Thank you.
Sorry, Shilpa, I was just going to say, I'd like to build on what Sandra said too, because I think when it comes to cyber, I think, and I tell my team this, our number one job, it's not about, understanding this technology, it's about education. It's about understanding and helping whether users or executives or people that are making the decisions understand the risks that are associated with it. So what's the risk of you giving up your username and password? What's the risk of you reusing your password on every website you're on the internet, which happens? But also, what's the impact if we don't address that? So I think, around the soft skills comment, it's very important to be able to take these very, very technical or very complex ideas or threats in my case, and transform them into language that people can understand, and that risk-based language, so that they can help make informed decisions about it.
Absolutely. I think, Sasha, you touched the point, and I was about to build up on that. First of all, making the stakeholders or your users understand the risk in a very English language, to put it like very simply here. But also, so that's for our users and the people we serve, advisory on a day-to-day basis. I also believe for our executives to take us seriously, or for the senior management to take us seriously, it's also important for the business quantification of the risks. That's going to be a key skill from what I believe in the coming years. And I know Sandra also touched on it, that we have to start quantifying the risk to show that what is the business impact for that risk. So cyber risk quantification is going to be a key skill that I believe is going to happen, whether it's through automation of cyber assessments, or whether it's through automated tools. It's going to be a key skill. Another important skill that I believe is very essential now, with new regulations and governance structures coming on a yearly basis, rather, governance and legislation requirements, whether it's with respect to privacy frameworks and legislation, data governance, that's going to be a key skill as well. And then basic proactive cyber assessment skills, which I believe are like application development security, cloud security, with everything going into the cloud and risk management. All of these are really essential because they talk about proactively building secure systems from the start rather than just responding to attack. And coming to attacks, I think the new world has to be more innovative. We have to start thinking in terms of statewide attack. What about quantum computers? Are we ready for that? China is already leading that. So as an example, are we ready for a statewide attack? We all came out of COVID and our world changed in an instant. And we pivoted and we improved, everything went digital, but did we have the best cyber practices to do that? So going forward, that's a new reality. So to me, those are some of the essential skills that we need to consider in mind. And lastly, being hungry. It's important to have that investigative mindset for a cyber professional. It's really, really important. And coming back to what Sandra said and I said earlier is intuition. So if you have intuition and you have an investigative mindset, I think you will be able to protect any organization that you work from a cybersecurity perspective.
Thank you, Shilpa. So we're going to finish at 3:30. One last question. What guidance can you give young girls that are thinking to start a career in cybersecurity?
Don't shy away.
Cybersecurity, it is such an interesting world. It is so broad, and the ability to either go into one aspect of cybersecurity to a great level of depth, or to take sort of a broader perspective. There are so many opportunities available, and it's really an untapped, I think for everybody, it's an untapped area, and really it can really create, it's not dull and boring. It very, very much is interesting. So that's the advice I would give.
That's great. And I would say, don't wait. Don't wait at all. Today is the time. I think it's cybersecurity is the future. Risk management is the future, and there's a common belief. Again, coming back to being a woman in a man's world, the expectation that people have is if it's a more technical area, men do it. If it's a non-technical area, women do it. I think that's not the world anymore. So cybersecurity has so many skill sets, like we talk about. It's just not security operations, it's risk management. It's, looking at the business applications. It's, quantifying the risk, talking that business language, and using that common sense to see where you can build your pathway, whether it's, you can write policies, you can have governance frameworks. There's a lot of potential to grow. And I would say, don't wait. Now is the time.
To build on that, I'll say, please come to security operations, though. We're happy to have you. We need more people in security operations. But no, I think it's the same. I echo the same thing. Just join and participate. And back to the kind of key skill sets I see it is around problem solving, and it's having that experience in a variety of areas that really make you very good in cybersecurity. You're able to see, okay, maybe you had a networking background, maybe you worked in risk. Anything that you can contribute will really go a long way. So yeah, just jump in. We're happy to have you. There's lots to do. So
I think that it's an exciting world. Sometimes you run on adrenaline, but I've often thought about what does that mean? There's always something new. There's always something happening. It's not an environment where you have an opportunity to be bored. To Shilpa's point, there's the policy side of it. There's the governance, the business side. Sacha's got the detection and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I would say cyber's cool. And I think that, if you're young in your career and you're looking to start, don't wait and think, when I get the experience. If you have those innate curious abilities and you're investigative, and there's a lot of investigators out there without a title these days. If you've got that natural inclination, you should really take a look at this industry, because It's something that will give you personal satisfaction when you know that you've done something for the betterment of a larger group of people.
Absolutely.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have we lost Kush?
Did we lose Kush?
Looks like it.
Oh, looks like it.
Yeah, we lost video.
You lost
I
video.
lost my video. But that's okay.
As long as you're still here with us. Yeah, we've encouraged them all to call you, Kush. Everyone was going to start contacting you and Sacha and Shilpa. And we're going to have an even more amazing team than we already have in cyber at the City of Toronto.
Yeah,
and
of
wait.
course. I think, we're all excited for sure. We're growing. We're going to be, hiring more and more people this year in 2021. We're building out this innovative service internally with the Office of the CISO, but also externally with our other divisions, such as, purchasing and accounting services and non-traditional, right? So if you're out there and you're excited to work in cyber, you want to change things, you want to make lives better for citizens, you want to protect the city, look out for those postings coming up in the next few weeks. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone, the panelists, the audience, and CyberX. So happy Women's Day, and everyone be safe.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.